My next guest is he spent the first part of his life in the world of the communist progressive left. Politics he inherited from his mother and father. Now he's one of the leading conservative minds in America. He's the author of the new book, The Black Book of the American Left. Let's bring in David Horowitz, who joins us. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Sorry to hear about Glenn's voice.
Yeah, you know, I got to be honest.
It's a mighty instrument.
It is. I'm not that worried about it, though. Having to be with him every day, it's kind of a soothing day, to be honest. David, you have an amazing history, and I was thinking about this as I was looking at the notes for this interview, in that if you reverse your life story, Hollywood makes the greatest movie about you of all time. Like, if you start out as this evil conservative and you end up as a communist, you are the greatest hero. And the movie is amazing. Tell everybody a little bit about your history.
Well, my parents were card-carrying communists, which means they were part of a vast international conspiracy. That's the reality, orchestrated from Moscow. You know, they were well-meaning people. You should, not think that the bad forces are going to appear with black hats and it'll be obvious who they are. On the contrary, they're going to speak, with humanitarian tones. When Lenin set out to fundamentally transform Russia, he didn't say he was going to kill 40 million people, create famines and concentration camps called gulags. He said he was going to give them bread, land, and peace. So I grew up in an environment, my parents always described themselves as progressives. They never called themselves communists, even though they were. That's what I grew up in. I was one of the founders of the New Left in the 1960s, which wasn't really new. It was formed by children of communists who wanted to get away from the taint that Stalin had put on it, on communism, and revive the vision. And then in the late 60s, I was introduced to the Black Panther Party, actually the early 70s. To the leader of the Black Panther Party by a Hollywood producer. I raised a lot of money for a school. I bought a Baptist church, a white Baptist church that had been overtaken by the inner city in Oakland, and gave it to the Panthers for a school. And I was editing the largest magazine of the left, and I recruited my bookkeeper to do the books of the school. In December 1974, Betty Van Patter disappeared. And by the time the police fished her body out of San Francisco Bay 5 weeks later, I knew the Panthers had killed her. I knew that all my friends were a menace to me and my family, because if I said that I thought they killed her, they would have called me a racist and a CIA agent. And the Panthers were capable of killing me. It took me about 10 years to recover somewhat from this and to become a conservative. I voted for Ronald Reagan in 1984. And when I came out of the closet as a conservative, of course, I knew that the left would be gunning for me. So the rest of my life has been spent fighting the left and defending this great country of ours, which we are rapidly losing.
Yeah, there's a sort of a disagreement, I guess, among conservatives who look at the left and say, we need to watch the way we speak about these things. We can't speak frankly about intentions like socialism and communism that seem to be...
That's completely wrong. That's why we're losing.
Yeah.
That's why we're losing. Barack Obama, this book I've written, this is the first volume of it's going to be 10 volumes.
Wow.
There are 5 already prepared. And the whole book shows the continuity between the progressive left, or what you see today, or now it's the Democratic Party, and the communist left of the Cold War. It's the same people and the same vision. Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, who's his key advisor, and David Axelrod, who's his political strategist. All of them were born into the same communist left that I was. They grew up in it. They were trained in it. They graduated to the what I call the neo-communist new left, and they've never left it. And I know that because if you understand that you belong to a movement that has agendas which are evil and destructive, and in particular want to destroy your country, the first thing that you want to do, if you're still political, is to repudiate it and to warn others against it. And of course, Obama, Jared, and David Axelrod are comfortable parts of this left. They've never left it, and they've carried on, the agendas. That's why the country is suffering the way it is. These are anti-Americans who occupy the White House and are in control of the Democratic Party.
So why?
And if my book serves any purpose, it's to educate. And really, mainly conservatives need to learn this. Conservatives have been in a state of shock. How could we have elected somebody like Obama? Well, this book that I've written, The Black Book of the American Left, will explain that. It will explain what was happening in the last 20 years when conservatives were unaware of the takeover of their country.
Because this truly is a story of groundwork, isn't it? It's a story of infrastructure over a long period of time when people weren't looking for it. Is that right?
Yeah, it began with the schools. Our schools are now indoctrination and recruitment centers for the political left. Oliver Stone's Communist History of the Cold War, which was, it was a Showtime 10-part series. It's a big book. It's going to be in all the classrooms because the people with the same views as Stone, who think America is the evil empire, not the Soviet Union or not the Islam. I mean, they're even defending Iran these days. Those people are in control of our children in the public schools and in the universities and I should say in the private schools as well. And in many religious institutions, most of the Catholic universities are gone.
Glenn was on a big kick for...
That's where it really began.
Sure. Glenn was on a long kick, and it still is, obviously, on progressives. So he's been discussing them for a long time. And when he first started talking about it, he would get on our cases about not calling them liberals. And to me, initially, as a guy who had never really gone down the real history of progressivism, it seemed like a sort of semantic game that didn't make much of a difference. But it does make a difference, doesn't it?
Well, first of all, Glenn was a real pioneer in terms of large-scale media in this way. And he's absolutely right about progressives. And it just drives me, it drove me up the wall for 20 years until Glenn Beck appeared that conservatives would call these people liberals. I mean, what are they liberal about except, hard drugs, sex, spending other people's money? That's what they're, criminals. They're liberal in those areas, but they're bigots. They despise and hate. They hate Christians. They hate religious people generally, except for the Islamists. And they hate America. Never call them liberal. He was absolutely right.
Because
and it's important. Another thing that Glenn did, and which I've tried to do in this book, is the historical perspective. You can't understand what's going on if you think this happened yesterday, or it's just this candidate. Oh, if they had another candidate. Barack Obama could never do what he's doing. First of all, he would never have, how could he get to be a president except having tremendous support and money behind him? But he could never accomplish, I mean, he didn't write Obamacare, Pelosi and Reid did. And the Democrats, went in lockstep for it. And Obamacare it's the communist future. That's what it is.
Well, we see, and you've done great work.
And people get nervous when I talk like this. On my website, frontpagemagazine.com, my magazine, The motto is, inside every liberal is a totalitarian screaming to get out. And you know this when they're trying to tell you that you can't have big gulps or, serve salt in restaurants. Or there's no end to the way they're going to try to remake and reshape your life. They're very, very arrogant people. They think they know what's best for you, and they're going to ram it down your throats if you don't like it. And very anti-American. America is the opposite of that. America is about, giving power to the people. The people are sovereign, not the government.